just 4 days away from the government shutdown, which will cripple the VA, Social Security, and Medicare, which means I get to extinguish one more candle on my government shutdown menorah. Shutdownacha celebrates the miracle of telling veterans and the elderly they can suck it.
With just days now until a potential government shutdown, the Obama administration told federal agencies to determine which staff are essential and exempt from furloughs and which staff are non-essential and off payroll should the continuing resolution expire. Here's who will not be affected. Federal employees essential to national security, military operations, law enforcement, air traffic control, Border Patrol, federal prison security, and emergency medical care. The United States Postal Service will operate normally because it is actually self-funded. Social Security, veterans, and Medicare checks will continue, though services for new applicants might be delayed. Other services that could be disrupted include tax refunds. Those could arrive late. Passport and visa applications could go unprocessed. National museums, parks, monuments, and zoos will close. A senior defense official tells CNN that if the shutdown is prolonged, U.S. troops, including those fighting wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, will not be paid on time. Joining me now, Washington Post columnist and MSNBC contributor Ezra Klein. Thanks for joining us tonight, Ezra.
Good evening, Lawrence.
Ezra, I have so many detailed questions about this. I mean, what I don't get, actually, is how do you pay the employees who you're calling essential? Where does that money come from to pay them if the whole thing has been shut down?
It actually doesn't arrive for a while. Those employees do not get paid unless after the shutdown ends, a bill is passed giving them back pay. What those employees are allowed to do is work. For a normal federal employee, you're actually not allowed to work. And this creates all sort of weird problems. By statute, do you have to actually shut down government servers to prevent a federal employee who's on shutdown from logging in and checking his work email, which would mean he's doing work while on shutdown? So I think what you see here is that shutdowns get a little bit crazy, and they end up just being sort of wildly costly and inefficient for everybody involved.
And so what happens to the big paychecks? The president, the senators, congressmen, the staff? There's thousands of staff on Capitol Hill, White House staff. Do they get paychecks?
Like on the budget itself, they can't agree. So no one in the House and no one in the Senate wants to be seen taking a paycheck while they're not doing their job. So both the House and the Senate have passed bills saying they're not going to get paid. The problem is that the bills don't agree, and some of them may actually be unconstitutional. So right now you have, again, a situation where nobody's supposed to get paid, except that, like on the shutdown, which we're not supposed to have, if the two sides can't agree, then we will have a shutdown and everybody will keep getting paid.
And as I recall, during the Clinton shutdowns, during his administration, he basically declared everybody in the White House to be essential personnel. There were very few people from the executive, in the White House anyway, who stayed home.
Absolutely, and it creates sort of interesting social competition among people in the White House and elsewhere.
Right.
Because though you want to be on vacation for a couple of weeks, you want to be the sort of important person who's an exempt employee. If you're not exempt, if you're not too important to the workings of the federal government, it calls into question why you keep showing up every day at all.
No, I remember when those designations were going out. It was very sad for some people.
Right.
Very sad discoveries. Now, there's the big argument of who gets blamed for this. Now, Newt Gingrich argued in the Washington Post that the 1995 shutdown that he presided over was actually productive for Republicans in the long run, especially. He said, while the shutdown produced some short-term pain, it set the stage for a budget deal in 1996 that led to the largest drop in federal discretionary spending since 1969. The discipline imposed by this budget allowed us to reach a balanced budget deal in 1997. That's Newt's definition of success based on that government shutdown.
That is a bit of revisionist history, and his earlier comments on shutdowns were more negative, particularly right when he was resigning from the speakership, having led the Republicans into a ditch. But the people who get blamed for shutdowns in general are Congress in general. It is Republicans and Democrats in Congress, while the executive tends to look good. With the best evidence we have on this comes from about 200 late budgets or shutdowns in the states. And what we tend to see in divided government is that the governor gets a bit of a boost in his or her reelection, while members of both parties in the legislature take a hit because it looks like they can't actually do their job very well.
Now, Politico's reporting that Speaker Boehner has warned Republicans behind closed doors that they will get blamed. It is very likely that Republicans will get blamed for a government shutdown. What effect do you think Boehner's warning will have on the Tea Party?
Not much of them. At the Post, we reported today that Boehner, when he said we might be heading towards a shutdown, got a standing ovation from some of his members. These folks who came to Washington saying they wouldn't compromise, they wouldn't give up, they would cut spending, they would do whatever it took, they wouldn't be infected by the Beltway culture. They want to show they're willing to push us all the way to the limit. And they're listening to people like Gingrich, and they're listening to a lot of folks who are sort of soothsayers coming to them and saying, listen, this won't be that bad. The American people are with you. You're going to come out of this just fine. And at any rate, it's what you came here to do. So I don't think that Boehner's private warning is going to have much of an effect. If they would, I don't think we'd be in this place, in this situation in the first place.
Ezra Klein, the always essential MSNBC contributor. We're going to need you, especially if there's a government shutdown, Ezra. You don't get vacation. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.